The next speaker is Chris Rogers, who has been actually doing that, developing curriculum and also teaching the teachers to teach engineering in classrooms. Chris?
Thanks. Hi. So how many of you are engineers? Nice. How many took an engineering class? Science class? Nice. So I became an engineer, not because of my dad or anything, but because I kept breaking things as a kid, and the only way I wouldn't get in big trouble was to fix them, and then I found out this is kind of cool, so I'd fix them better than they were before. At least that's what I told my mother when she got mad at me. I'd like to go back to what Saeed said about science and engineering and how they're actually different. So science is really trying to understand the world around you. Agreed? All right. In your first 12 years of your education, how many of your science classes actually tried to teach you how to understand the world around you? I would contend that most of them taught you how to memorize other people's understanding of the world around you, but didn't focus on your own understanding. Unless you went to a really good school, which would be awesome. Now let's look at engineering. Engineering is actually trying to create something that isn't already there. So it's developing something new, something different. So just out of curiosity, of those people that raised their hands, how many people actually had that engineering class in high school? Middle school? Kindergarten? Pre-kindergarten? It's a great pre-kindergarten that has engineering in it. So now let's actually take a moment, and I want to quote a very good friend of mine who I've been working with in this field for about 20 years, Janis Miolis. He's the head of the Museum of Science in Boston. And he says, take a minute, look around, and remove everything that was developed by an engineer. What do you have left? Well, you're not wearing any clothes, you're in a marsh, you don't have a roof over your head. So why is it that in the first 12 years of your education, and sometimes in your entire education, have you never spent any time learning how that process is done? And there are reasons for it, because you used to get a lot of that actually on the farm back 100 years ago when they developed, or 115, 20 years ago when they developed the curriculum, right? We need to bring that back into the schools because I think everybody that votes should understand actually science and should understand engineering. Not necessarily be a scientist or engineer, but hopefully they are in their own world, whether it's as a profession or not, makes no difference. So I ended up joining a team, this was in the 90s, of a small company called Lego in developing Mindstorms, which is a set of Legos that actually are robots. And it was great. It allowed us to help redefine actually what we wanted to do in the classroom. Why? Because there was no engineering in classrooms, so we could do anything we wanted. So now I ask you another question. Sit back and think for a moment. What are you actually trying to do as a teacher? You're trying to take an idea that's in your head, a story, an understanding, and put it in the head of the students, right? That's ultimately what you're trying to do. So how can you do that? Well, you can tell the students your story, you can show the students your story, or you can listen to the student's story and then argue with that student until your story and that student's stories align, right? Which do we tend to do? Well, we tend to tell a lot. Now go back and remember when you were a kid. For some of you, that wasn't that long ago. For me, that was eons ago, right? How effective was your parents telling you what to do in getting you to think have that same story that they had in their head? Not very effective. And it's those same kids that we're putting in chemistry class and telling them this is what chemistry is, right? So it's a balance of these three things, and the expert teachers are the ones that can do this balance in real time, and that balance changes from student to student based on cultural background, based on gender, based on the day, actually, whether or not they're willing to take high risks or not take risks. And believe me, if you go engineering, you want to take a lot of risks, right? So we got to reinvent a classroom, and together with Lego, we tried to do that. Invent a classroom, instead of there being one right answer, what we celebrate instead is a diversity of solutions. In fact, the more diverse the solution set, the more successful we are. And why are we more successful? Because it's an authentic question we're asking the kids to solve. We're not asking them to regurgitate what we already know. We're asking them to solve a real problem. And so we actually measure this solution diversity, whether it's at a first competition or in a RoboCup dance competition or any of these others. You guys have ever been to a WRO open competition where kids are inventing everything from automatic massage chairs to things that can grow plants in space using these technologies. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens when you let kids drive their own learning. And we see engineering as a very powerful way to allow kids to take the driver's seat and drive their own learning. I wanted to end, since I have a couple minutes, with another thought too. And that is we in the US, and actually it's all over the world, we work with schools all around the world, have this desire to take something that is effective somewhere else and scale it and bring it into our classroom. It doesn't matter that it was effective in Singapore, it was effective in Japan, completely different cultural backgrounds than what we're trying to do in our class, than what we have in our classroom. So I ask you, if I gave you $10 million, NSF grant, to tell me what the best tasting food in the world is, what would you do?
It tastes a lot of food.
Okay. One option is you go try every piece of food out there, right? Another option?
Survey.
Interview 10 million people and find out what the best tasting food is, right? So now replace food by science curriculum, by engineering curriculum. I'm giving you $10 million and I want you to give me the best engineering curriculum for my school. Right? It's about as silly as what you first thought when I said the best tasting food. Why? Because everybody has different tastes. Everybody has different ways of learning. Everybody has different experiences that they're going to bring to the table. Right? So let's go back to the two solutions we heard. One is I can give you the best engineering curriculum that was for me, but you know that's probably not going to work very well with your students. I had a completely different upbringing. Right? Two, I can do a survey, and I can survey millions of people. What would you get with a food survey? You'd probably get the Big Mac, maybe pizza, pasta. Do you want your kids learning the Big Mac of science education or the Big Mac of engineering education? I don't think so, right? So what did the restaurant world do? They've got many different doors you can go down to eat, right? You can enter through the door that is Japanese food, or you can have Italian food, or you can have whatever type of food you want to enter. You can have that uncooked fish stuff, which I don't understand, but I hear it's really good, right? Why don't we do that in science education and engineering education? Why can't I learn science through my robotics, or through Internet of Things, or through computer programming, or through actually trying to help out people in my neighborhood and come up with solutions to problems we have in the neighborhood? And there are some schools out there across the U.S. that are doing this with amazing results. The kids are excited to come to school. They're excited to do their projects. In fact, my favorite quote was out of a girl out of High Tech High who, when asked by an interviewer what she did for homework at night, she said, "Oh, we don't have homework." The interviewer was surprised, said, "Well, what do you do then at night?" She said, "Oh, I work on my projects." If we can get that kind of thinking, and we already have it in sports, we have kids all excited to learn science and engineering. Thanks.